Good morning, thanks for being with us today. The US president is threatening to blow up the world's largest gas field. Donald Trump's comments on Truth Social came after Iran hit Qatar's gas facilities, and that was in retaliation for an Israeli attack on part of Iran's South Pars gas field. That's the same field that Trump is now threatening to destroy.
Extraordinary moment. You might be a little confused about what's going on, but the bottom line is this is going to have a massive impact on the global economy. Oil and gas prices are already spiking, and Trump is angry because Israel attacked the Iranian part of that field. He says, without telling him, he's now ordered them to stop. So he wrote lots of his thoughts on social media overnight. I'll read you some of it. He said, Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as the South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea what is going on, or was going to happen, Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. He then goes into all caps, no more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field.
So a lot of words from Donald Trump there.
So many words.
But look, this is really, really important. It could be an unprecedented moment in the war if this gas field does get sucked into the conflict. And just to show you exactly what we're talking about here. So the red circle is roughly where the world's largest gas field is. Now, offshore, as you can see. Part of it is in Qatari territorial waters, known as the North Field. The rest of it, though, South Pars, is in Iranian waters.
Yeah, now, Qatar has said that the attacks on its facilities at Ras Laffan caused extensive damage and large fires which they say have now been put out. But it's also expelled the Iranian embassy's military and security attaches, and it stopped pumping LNG from those facilities. So let's look at how the markets are reacting to this. This is the oil price, which has continued to rise this morning after those strikes. A barrel of Brent crude, the benchmark, now costs $113 a barrel, slightly down on its highest point when the war began.
So before the war, though, oil cost around 72 per barrel. So it gives you a sense of just how much it has spiked. UK gas prices as well have been on the rise for most of the last day. Currently priced at 139 pence per therm. That's a bit of a dip off from last night, but it's still closer to the wartime high of 164 pence. So these are big rises. They're rises that are going to impact all of us. If you're thinking about, booking a holiday, jet fuel prices up. If you're filling your car up with petrol, all of these things have a knock-on effect.
Absolutely. And I know there's a guy who normally sits next to you that would look at that chart and see that spike extraordinary, because it just shows just how high it's gone up, and it's maintained that place. And it's probably going to go up further because of those threats. And the question is whether or not Donald Trump actually has a plan. And you asked that very question, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. So we spoke to Chris Bryant, who was the Trade Minister earlier today, and I feel like he went further than I've heard from any other member of the government in criticising Donald Trump.
One of my colleagues, counterparts, in the Gulf, said yesterday, I don't know what they're doing. I simply don't know what they're doing. Do
you know what they're doing?
No. Do you know what they're doing? Does he know?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems very, very confusing.
Do you think he went in with a plan?
Well, I think one of the reasons that Keir Starmer was quite rightly, and I think he showed exceptional leadership at this point, was saying, look, first of all, we're not going to send British troops into a situation where they're not protected legally because there's no good legal argument for the war. Secondly, if you're going to do anything, you've got to have a plan. I mean, it just seems basic to me.
Was there a plan?
I don't think there was a plan.
I mean, as you say, Sophie, I think that is a little further than we've had government ministers go on this, saying he doesn't know what Trump's doing. Asked you whether you knew, and of course, no one does, because Donald Trump, many would say, has seemed to have many reasons for doing this, at least 7, maybe 10 reasons that keep changing intermittently. And at this point, as fossil fuel costs keep getting higher, we don't seem to be finding a way out of it.
Yeah, well, Chris Bryant, I thought, as Kamani says, pretty decisive there. I don't think he had a plan. Let's take you inside Iran now. Our correspondent Dominic Waghorn is the only British broadcaster in the country.
Yeah, he's been at a funeral in the capital, Tehran, where thousands turned out to mourn their lost leaders.
If you assassinate people whose religion embraces martyrdom, this is what you can expect. As Iran's government buried its fallen heroes, its supporters came out in force. Senior security official Ali Larijani was killed in an airstrike 2 days ago. Honoured today along with the crew of the Iranian Navy ship sunk at the start of the war. Thousands of mourners gathered for the combined funeral, bringing their tributes to the dead. Mohammed and Hamadeh came with their family.
The way our weak enemy martyred him shows its weakness and impotence, and the method of his killing was very unfair. It's not accepted anywhere in the world.
The funeral came after another heavy night of attacks, drones and missiles dueling with air defences late into the night. In the same square as the funeral, there was an airstrike in daylight yesterday.
This is an expression of grief and defiance in the heart of their bombarded capital. But as they say farewell to the latest group of senior leaders to be assassinated by their enemy, those left behind are left wondering what comes next in this war.
These were some of the biggest crowds since the war began. As it loses leader after leader, Iran's government still wants to maintain a sense it can survive and outlast the enemy. Trump is humiliated, this propaganda poster says, alongside a picture of a blocked Strait of Hormuz. Trump, soon we will kill you, he says. Netanyahu is not our target anymore. Our target is you. You killed our children to mock us, and we will kill you to teach you a lesson in history. Teacher Safour Ahmed Beghi also had something to say to her country's enemies.
What does your poster say here?
It's a poet from Ferdowsi. It is said, if we are killed, all of us, one by one are killed, it's better than giving our country to the enemy.
We saw some big protests against the government, didn't we, some weeks ago? Does that worry you that they don't want the government here?
No, they are not so big. Most of the leaders of the protests are those who are supported and who give money from Israel and from America.
As Israel and America seek regime change in Iran, its government can still muster this kind of support. And the culture of resistance and no surrender, celebrated here today, makes bombing Iran into submission all the more difficult. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Tehran.
Right, let's go to Dubai now and bring in our correspondent, Sally Lockwood. Sally, morning to you. So just give us a sense of the situation there right now and the region more broadly after that extraordinary threat from Donald Trump to blow up the world's largest gas field.
Yeah, good morning to you both, Kamali. There's big threats coming from both sides, and certainly the last 12 to 24 hours have felt escalatory in this region after the South Pars gas field was hit by Israel yesterday. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard in Iran, sent out a threat to target oil and gas infrastructure in the Gulf, specifically naming targets here in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar. And shortly after that, in the early hours of this morning, we received emergency alerts for incoming missiles on our mobile phones, and a few hours later, confirmation from UAE officials that missiles had been intercepted, but that gas facilities and an oil field south of Abu Dhabi had been damaged by falling debris in the night, and operations there have now been shut down. In Qatar, significant damage has been sustained to their liquefied natural gas facilities there, and they had already been shut down at the beginning of March, I think the 2nd of March, due to damage caused by drone attacks. And then Saudi has also reported that they've intercepted missiles heading for an oil refinery there. Significant explosions reported to me by eyewitnesses in Riyadh. And Saudi has come out and reacted angrily, saying, you know, we reserve the right to respond militarily because this is no longer just targeting oil and gas shipping and disruption in terms of the Strait of Hormuz. This is now a direct attack on Gulf energy infrastructure, and Qatar has also responded furiously, expelling security and military attaches to Iran and also summoning their ambassador. I think, looking at this now, this is dragging Gulf countries and their very valuable oil and energy infrastructure into this war, which makes it much harder for Gulf states like the UAE, like Saudi, like Qatar, who until now have resisted getting involved militarily. It makes it much harder for them to maintain a neutral position.
Sally, I'm interested in your take about the relationship between the US and Israel, because it feels like at the beginning of the war they were almost in lockstep with their aims. Do you think with this latest strike and escalation that's changed? And is there a sense that Donald Trump is, I guess, losing control of the conflict?
I mean, it's a good question, Sophie. We've seen Israel act. I mean, when you look at what happened last year with that strike on the Hamas residents in Doha, America did not seem happy about that at all. It was quite unclear whether they'd been involved in that decision or even how much warning they were given. And then we're seeing sort of a similar dynamic play out after the South Pars gas field was hit yesterday. Donald Trump coming out, mixed messaging about whether America supported it, knew about it, and he said, he doesn't want to see Iranian energy infrastructure targeted again. But then in the same breath on social media, he's warning that they will, obliterate it if Qatari energy infrastructure is targeted again. I think it feels mixed reporting, mixed messaging coming from Washington, but very important messaging in terms of the direction of travel in this war. It certainly feels escalatory. And, if you look at, what we've seen unfold in the last 2.5 weeks, the way the Strait of Hormuz has become a battleground, that's already had a huge impact on energy markets, caused so much concern. But to now drag energy infrastructure in Gulf states into this war, it is, something that I think no one wanted to see happen, but it does suggest that it's moving in a direction that Gulf states won't want to see, and certainly it won't necessarily be the market shock that analysts were fearing. It could be far worse.
All right, Sally, for now, thank you so much for that. More from you and team, of course, throughout the day. I don't think we should walk past as well sort of that point that Sally's making there, that these Gulf states that have been hit for the entirety of this war, passively, not responding to those strikes at this stage now. They said quite clearly that the US cannot fly sorties from their territory that they hoped would mean that the Iranians would hit them. The Iranians continue to do so. Now the Iranians threatening their critical infrastructure. There'll be pressure within those countries as well for a response, surely. So we may well see, as Sally says, just an escalation of this war. And these are the second, third, fourth order consequences once you start a war that you probably don't quite appreciate sometimes.
Yes, completely right.